Shalom, hope all is well. We're going to really dive into this next one because it's a very difficult topic, very complicated, and there's a lot to talk about. So I'll try to take it one step at a time, probably continue tomorrow because it can get quite complicated. So let's start off just by talking again about the fact that the Alter Rebbe explains how the world is created in such a way that there is Kedusha, there's holiness, there's Klippus Noga, which is more of a neutral godly force, and there's Gimel Klippus Atameas, which is comes from God, but it is unelevatable. In other words, it's considered to be negative, evil, treif, whatever negative word you want to put to it. So that also applies to the makeup of a Jew. In other words, that we have within us, not necessarily all of those elements, but we have the potential for all of those elements. And I'll explain what that means. For those of you who are familiar a little bit with Chassidus or with Tanya, you'll recognize some of the terms, and we're going to try to put it all into perspective so that it all comes together as far as figuring out how everything overlaps and how everything fits in together into one big picture. So first of all, we have a Nefesh Elokis. The Jew has a godly soul. That godly soul, we call it a Chelik Elokah Mima'al Mamash, literally a portion of God from above. And it's representing the essence of God is like a laser beam coming straight down from the essence of God right into you. You, whoever you are, wherever you're sitting, there's a laser beam coming from the essence of God into you. And that's Kodesh, that's holy. But at the same time, and we're going to get much more into this some other time, maybe next week we'll talk about free choice. It's not as if that laser beam is going to dominate your life or dominate who you are, dominate your thought process, or dominate things that are coming into your mind. To the contrary, in order to create free choice, it is very dormant. And I'll explain a little much more when we get into the issue of free choice. Then we also have what's called a Nefesh HaBahamis. The Nefesh HaBahamis, otherwise called a Nefesh HaTivis, or an animal soul or a natural soul. In other words, it's called an animal soul because an animal just does things that go according to its nature, never aspires to do more, doesn't have free choice, isn't really involved or interested in elevating things or being holy or making moral choices, so forth and so on. So that's our natural soul, which is what we'll call it for the purpose of this class. Now that natural soul, the Alter Rebbe explains, is an embodiment of Klippus Noga, which means it is the neutral force of godliness. So it has good and bad in it, mixed in together. Now, what's that mean? It's mixed in together. So if we go back to the Garden of Eden, it's going back a little bit. So at that time, it says that Adam and Eve, when they were in the Garden of Eden, they were able to see and identify something as evil or good, holy or not holy. And it was very easy because it was all on the outside, and that's good, that's not good, stay away from this, do this, don't do this, so forth and so on. But then once they ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, they ate from the fruit. So then all of a sudden, what happens when they eat something? It becomes part of your flesh and blood, and it gets mixed into your whole system, so you can no longer really delineate between what's coming from that apple and what's not coming from the apple. So similarly, the Nefesh Bahamis, the natural soul that is within us, with this combination of good and evil, positive and negative, moral and immoral, spiritual and grossly physical, that composite of all those forces is mixed up in a way where we really have to spend time, learn the tools, be very, very selective in understanding what is coming from the positive side of the Nefesh Bahamis, that, as we pointed out yesterday, that we can elevate, because that's the purpose of a Jew, to elevate the world around us. And what is coming from the negative side of the Nefesh Bahamis, which can either be transformed into something positive or just avoided completely. Now, in addition to this Nefesh Bahamis and Nefesh Elokis, the godly soul and the natural soul, we also have what we call the Yetzer Hara and the Yetzer Tov, which that is the good inclination and the evil inclination. The inclination to do the right thing, to be moralistic, to maintain values, principles, to do mitzvahs, to learn Torah, to say the right things, do the right things, to even think the right things. And then the Yetzer Hara, which is really acting on behalf of the negative aspect, the negative side, so to say, even though it's all mixed together, but it's connected to the negative aspect of the Nefesh HaTivis, the animal soul, the natural soul, and the Gimel Klippas HaTameus, the negative and unelevatable elements of the world around us. We don't have, at least the way we're born, those three impurable klippas that within us, because an animal soul of a Jew, the natural soul of a Jew doesn't have that. However, when we do a lot of negativity and we think a lot of negativity and we involve ourselves and we enclose ourselves, so to say, into those three negative aspects of God's creation, then in fact we are taking it into ourselves and we are becoming, so to say, enclosed by it to a certain degree. And that can happen to a small degree, it could happen to a great degree. So a person can be very much influenced by that three-level unelevatable aspect of negativity that God creates, or it can just be a constant nagging Yetzer Hara, a voice from within that's pushing us to do it, but we say no. Or it can really just be like a little whisper that once in a while pops its head up and says, listen, maybe you'll do this now, or maybe you'll do that today or tomorrow, and do something that's really negative for the soul, for the Jewish soul. So there are many different levels of this, as the Alter Rebbe talks about in the Tanya. You have a Rasha, V'tovlo, and a Rasha, V'larlo. A Rasha, a negative, evil person, or for the purpose of this conversation, perhaps we could call it a person who really doesn't have complete self-control, because a Beinoni, the intermediary person, has total self-control over their thoughts, speech, and action, that anything that comes to their mind to start thinking negativity or start thinking from thoughts or ideas that come from this three unelevatable aspects of creation, immediately pushes it out of a mind. Is total control, total aware of a level of self-awareness, of self-consciousness, that's not possible for it to even to get itself in for the Beinoni. For the tzaddik, how much more so? But the tzaddik is a whole different story, which we'll talk about another time. But for the Beinoni, these don't push themselves in. There might be a war even going on inside the Beinoni, literally a war, a moral war, where he's constantly bombarded by these negative thoughts. I was once interviewing Yossi Jacobson, and so he said something very strong which stuck with me. He said, listen, our minds can sometimes be like a cesspool. And I was taken aback by it, but we sometimes have the situation where we feel like there's a spigot that is just pouring in negative thoughts and negative ideas, and we can be doing, at the time, something that might be very, we might think it should be very uplifting and holy even. The question about what do you do when you're in shul on Yom Kippur and it's Nila, and you're trying very hard to concentrate, and you're really working on and reading the words and having the right thoughts, and all of a sudden a thought comes into your mind that's mamish from left field, which is so disgusting and so like a cesspool and so negative, and you're saying, what's going on over here? So if it wasn't for the Tanya, a person could think, listen, I'm a hypocrite, total hypocrite. How could it be? I'm standing here, the ark is open, and I'm standing here and thinking such thoughts. Who am I think I'm kidding here? So according to the Alter Rebbe, that the godly soul is still alive and well, only when the godly soul arouses itself and is really on fire and really intense. So the natural soul says, hey, wait a second, we got to get in there. We got to start making trouble. We have to create a detour. This is not good that the godly soul is so on fire. So we have to try to throw in as many distractions or negative thoughts into this person's mind. And that's part of the battle. So without this knowledge about us having really two souls, two forces within us, which are causing this constant struggle within us, then we might just give up and say, okay, listen, let's be real. If this is who I am, then I'm just going to give up and be what I am and give into the negativity or give into the cesspool. And that's not our purpose. Our purpose is to fight the fight and to be aware that there is a fight. And that's, of course, where the free choice comes in, which we'll deal with. So the Yetzer Tov, fortunately, the good inclination, is there to try to fight the Yetzer Hara, to literally struggle with it. And as many of us know, most of us who are human beings know that we have inner struggles. and we have inner questions, and we have feelings, and we have all types of things that come into our mind. And that's the beauty of being a human being. That's the beauty of being a Jew, is being able to fight that struggle and be able to know that there is, in fact, a cause for why I am this composite of the negative and the positive, and why I have to really be focused on it and not give up and not feel, oh, I don't feel like struggling today, or I don't feel like fighting today, or I don't feel like having any inner battles today. No, I'm sorry. Maybe after 120 years, you'll be able to let go and say, okay, I'm finished. But as long as we're still alive and well and breathing, that struggle is part and parcel of being a Jew and trying to aspire to fulfill our purpose in life. So I think we're probably over our time limit already. We'll continue tomorrow a little bit. This week being a little bit of a slower week, I hope everybody has a little more time to be able to go into these things. You're welcome to send me whatever questions you might have. I know it's a tough topic, but there's a lot to discover, and hopefully it'll be something that will put our minds a little bit more at peace as far as who we are, what's going on inside of us, why we have so many different feelings, sometimes of totally opposite tendencies and directions, and that this is all part of the plan. Take care.